and destruction of housing with criminalization instead of housing. So D-Ho is saying, look, we need housing. We have 26,000 vacant luxury apartments in the city alone. There's no reason why anybody who wants a home should be on the streets. But the city's answer to this is forcing people into shelters, unsanitary shelters at that, with rats and roaches, drugs, and then saying that they have all these shelter beds when they're not beds, they're mats on the floor. And the council, the city council just went on a tour of the facilities that the mayor is gloating about, and they were appalled by the conditions. So, since we can do better, let's do better. And after this training, there's going to be a town hall meeting right down the street on 22nd in California at the Carbon Cafe about what we can do better looks like. And since we can do better, let's do better. So these sweeps need to be documented. The city is lying, like I said, saying that these are cleanups. These are sweeps. They are sweeping whole people's lives away, their whole, all their tents away, all their survival gear. We have really cold winters here in Colorado, and survival gear is essential if you're living on the streets. And the city, along with Public Works, along with Parks and Rec, and other entities, are under a coordinated effort to sweep neighbors out of sight, out of mind. They don't want the tourists to see that we have an unhoused neighbor problem, which is really a greedy problem because, like I already alluded to, there's 26,000 vacant luxury apartments in Denver County alone. That's not even including the surrounding metropolitan areas. That's just Denver. So we have to document these sweeps when they happen. Due to the efforts from D-Ho, we had a class action lawsuit that passed last year, which means that law enforcement and city officials have to give notice before they do these sweeps. So depending on the size of the camp, it could be anywhere from 48 hours to 7 days, a whole week. And they have to make sure they put it where our unhoused neighbors can see it, on a pole, on a tree, on a tent, on their person, so they know ahead of time, look, there's gonna be a sweep. We need to move before they do the sweep. And barring inclement weather, they have kept these scheduled sweeps. So the last visit we had, they actually delayed it for a day, and then it came the next day and swept the whole camp. So it's vital that we have boots on the ground, people documenting these sweeps, because it's up to the public, the whole community, the house and the unhoused, to have this documentation, because this is going to result in lawsuits, because the city is in clear violation of this ruling. This has been ruled unconstitutional. There should not be sweeps still going on. But as we've seen last week, Civic Center Park across from Civic Center Park, Lincoln Park was completely swept, and the excuse used was there was rats in the park, like the rats just popped up. No. The Women's March on Saturday, they strategically did this so that the unhoused would be out of sight, out of mind. Our unhoused are being harassed just for hanging out in front of the library. Like, enough is enough of this madness, so we have to have people on the ground documenting this stuff. So I'm going to bring up Darren O'Connor next. He's going to tell you about the proper ways of documenting the sweeps.
Thanks, Jesse. Thank you all for coming today. It's good to have good us for this. My name is Darren. As Jesse said, I'm with the National Lawyers Guild Colorado. And one of the big things the National Lawyers Guild does, if you're not familiar with them, is we train people in legal observing. And so if you've ever been to a protest or a march on the streets and see someone with a dorky-looking bright green hat that says National Lawyers Guild Legal Observer, it looks just like that. If you take the class, you too can own one of these hats. The goal is to be visible and to let police know that we're present, monitor them. And that's the main goal is for legal observers to ensure that protesters and others' rights are not violated by the police. But there's other activities we do. One of those is for people who are showing up, such as at an anti-racist march, we'll look for people who are with known white supremacist groups, or just someone who shows up from, that wasn't with the march that is suddenly joining in a few people at a time, starts to make you aware. We try to be aware of new people coming in and see how they behave. One of the main things, our main tools, aside from a camera, is pen and paper. We take notes, we write down times, we document what's going on, and you can end up, as I was here, you can see pen and paper in hand, documenting a protest at the airport a few years ago when they had the Muslim ban, and
The Constitution.
across the country there were protests that popped up just overnight in response to that, and the airport tried to stop that protest from going on and threatened to arrest about 40 people at that time. There's a lot to be said about legal observers. This is not a legal observer training, so I do want to invite you, if you're interested in that. You don't need to have a legal background. The training tells you as much as we can how to be safe yourself in doing it. And if you want to have one of those trainings, I encourage you to do so. You can catch up with me after the meeting. But other than that, I'm not actually the expert on monitoring these sweeps. But I'm going to leave that to folks from D-Hole who are here to do so. What we're really trying to do here is engage with our legal observer team, get more legal observers and just observers in general who know enough about how to interact with people who are experiencing homelessness, who are on the streets, possibly having their rights violated, with the police coming and taking their stuff in violation of this class action lawsuit settlement. So there are special things to do that are different from when you're volunteering to monitor or legal observe at a march. So that's really the focus of today. And I don't want to take very much time, but I have a few things in here to, there's Know Your Rights training in this presentation, but some of the stuff I think still worth sharing is an officer can, if you're videoing, for example, you have a First Amendment right to video of public property, but they can, if they have good reason to take your camera. So just like any piece of property that you have that an officer's going to take, what are the magic words when they say, do you mind, or can I take this, or I'm going to take this? No matter what, the words are the same. Do you know what they are? I don't consent. Yeah, that's the way to tell an officer F you in legal terms, because that is legal language that when you get to court, you can say, look, I did not consent to this. Very clear. We got a question. Or was that a wave? That was a wave. All right. Thanks to Representative Salazar. If they do take your camera and they don't give it back or they damage it, you can get an award of up to $15,000. And I've had police threaten to take my camera in the past just because they were being jerks. And I didn't argue at all. I was like, yeah, please go ahead and take my camera. It doesn't mean you get that, but it's possible. Yeah.
We've had some people who have gotten that for being moved along down the sidewalk. I've gotten payments off of that, like $500, $1,000.
Videoing?
Yes.
Okay. So there you go. It's real. It happens. I hadn't heard that, so that's useful information. This is just one of my favorite images about the police from Edward Snowden. I'm going to skip this. It's just Know Your Rights training. That's not what we're here for. If you are questioned by an officer, I think this is important. The only thing they can ask you are your name and address. If you have ID, although if you don't have it, you don't have to give it to them, and an explanation of your actions. Okay, that's all they can ask. But in reality, they'll ask you for your social security number, And I've seen people
Refresh your
give their
screens
social
to
security
chat.
number in a mixed up way while on prescription drugs, and they end up with a class 6 felony for criminal impersonation. So the best thing to say is, I don't need to give you my social security number. Why are you asking? Or just, I don't need to give it to you. You've got my name and address. Your name and address and what you're up to. I'm monitoring the streets under my First Amendment right to observe the police. Okay? I think that's about it. This is specific to Boulder, but generally, when you're doing this stuff, if you're videoing or monitoring, I think even in Denver, I don't know if there's a distance, there's no specific distance, but 8 to 10 feet is a good distance to stay away. That way they can't claim that you're interfering or you're obstructing with a police officer. Those are both charges that they can arrest you for. So if you stay like from me to that second table away, and they start giving you any grief, say, hey, I'm not obstructing, I'm standing back, but I need to be close enough to see what's going on. You know that, right?
Well, in Denver now, what they're doing now, they're taping it off like a MRSA. So if you're not, as long as you don't enter into that, then you're good. So, but whatever you do not go inside that tape, because they will threaten you or arrest you. And make sure that you're not in the streets, you know, or anything like that. That you're safe. You are safe from getting hit by a car. Because a lot of these sweeps have been done right on the corner of the street area in public spaces. So just keep that in mind.
Thanks, Jerry. So this is a short example of me videoing. It's edited, videoing cops in Boulder are responding. Tell me I'm making him nervous. I can kill him all day long, but he's nervous with one hand in my pocket.
But
I
he's
took
got
it
the
out.
gun.
and did this.
We've talked before, I don't have a problem with filming, that's absolutely right to do that.
Right.
It just makes me nervous when you have your hand in your pocket and you're just a few feet away from me.
So you know who I am, you think I'm going to do something to you?
I know your name, I don't know you.
For no reason, you got
I
it.
don't have them. I'm just giving you information.
Now I know.
So that was that. I told him, if you want to give me a lawful order, go ahead, but otherwise, you know, I had nothing to say to him, and away he went. It pissed me off because it's a cop who knows me and has talked to me before, like my hand in my pocket. Not being a stranger, being a known person who videos the police, it was just a way to intimidate. And you'll get that, you know. A cop might be nice to you one day and behave differently the next day. So always observe, you know, the distance limits and be sure that, to assert your rights. I'm pursuing my First Amendment right to monitor the police. So with that, I'm going to turn it over. I think it's Teresa's next to talk about the specifics of addressing people who are homeless when doing this work. Thanks.
Okay. Whew, that leg. Hello everybody, my name is Therese, I'm with Denver Homeless Out Loud. And I'm going to talk about a couple of things. I'm going to talk about the laws, and then I'm going to talk about dynamics on the street when we're out here filming. So, as has been mentioned, last year, actually it was in September of 2019, we settled a class action lawsuit against the city of Denver for coming through with no warning and seizing people's property and trashing it. So that's it's a big deal. It's really the first time in the history of Denver that there's been protections put for folks who are homeless. But it's limited. It's very limited in scope. It did not overturn the camping ban, aka survival ban, and it did not stop the practice of sweeps. It simply restricts the ways in which they can do it. So there's many more suits and much more legal fighting that has to happen to really stop all of these sweeps and stop all of this criminalization from happening. hence why we ran a bill called the Right to Survive that got killed. So there's much more that has to happen to do that, but these, even small legal wins are huge. They have a real impact on life on the streets, because now you should have your property protected. You should have, if the city's following what they're supposed to be following, which they aren't always, you should have faith that you can leave your property there for a time, and unless you have notice saying that it's going to be seized on a particular day, it should be fine at that location. You should have that kind of faith. And it has changed dynamics, so there is a lot more stability on the streets since that class action has come down. But it's still perpetuated within this sweeps and what we call homeless whack-a-mole, where folks go from place to the next place to the next. So a few things that you need to know about the rights in the lawsuit settlement specifically. So it protects these types of notices. And Jesse mentioned earlier what those notices are. Does anybody know the two different types of notices? What are they?
One of them is an encumbrance, which is a 48-hour notice, and there's a large group encampment, which is 7 days.
Yeah, so they're both encumbrance notices. So the law they use here for this is called the encumbrance law. And without getting too much into that, it's a bullshit law that literally gives Public Works the authority to define what an encumbrance is. So they can call rock on the sidewalk an encumbrance. It does not mean obstruction. A lot of people think encumbrance means you're blocking a sidewalk or a passageway. That's not what it means. That's a different law. Encumbrance is really up to Public Works to define at any time, anywhere. And that's the law that they, which is a whole other issue, but that's the one that they use to quote-unquote legally justify the sweeps. And so there's two kinds of notices, like just 48-hour and 7-day, both under the encumbrance law. With the 48-hour notice, there's a couple things that are really important to know. And this is all important when we're talking about the documenting, because what we document is what we can take to the courts or what we can put to the city to hold them accountable for what they've committed to. So for the 48-hour notices, where do they have to be placed? Anybody know?
It's going to be placed on people property.
On the property.
People property, not up against a fence or a hole or anything like that. Which they
So the 7-day notices can be placed anywhere along the encampment. We've been having a lot of issues with this lately because they started to put them on the fence and not on the poles, and they have quit handing them to people. So people have not been aware of the pending sweep. And that creates a serious problem because people's stuff is taken when they're not aware that it's happening. That the whole point of the notice is so that everybody knows and is able to be prepared, back up and move, or be there when it's happening, or have somebody else take care of your stuff or whatnot. But when you don't know, you can't do that. And so a lot of people have been losing their property because they're not aware. But the notices are for the 7-day are usually posted either along a fence line or on the different posts. Now, again, there's more work to do to make sure these are posted in better ways, but that's what you should know. The law says where they have to be posted. Another thing to know for the sweeps, the class action lawsuit requires that property, not trash, property is put into storage, not into trash. So, trash and property are too often confused. They are very easily distinguished in the class action lawsuit in that it lays out the things that are automatically trash. Basically, trash. It's food waste or wrappers or things that are sold and laying on the ground. The things that are obviously trash. Things that are not trash would be things like tents or tarps or backpacks or shopping carts full of things. Those items have to be stored. So if you see them putting up those kinds of items, directly in a dump truck, that may be right there a violation of the settlement. So that's really the basic. There's a whole lot of more details. We can start getting now into some of those loopholes and details, but I see a hand back there.
Bruce, do the notices identify where the property will be stored?
Yes, they do. Yeah, so I don't have a copy of the notice on hand. I should probably grab one. The notices basically say, so for the 48-hour notices, they say the date and time with a line, and that's where the police officer has to write the date and time that they came, because that's what tells you what 48 hours from then is. So if there's a 48-hour notice that doesn't have that filled out, that's a problem. They have to say the ordinance is being applied, which is the encumbrance ordinance, and they have to say where the storage facility is, and explain the hours, and give the phone number, and also explain that you can go there without risk of arrest or any sort of legal enforcement if you have any warrants or anything like that. So those are the basics of what and then for the 7-day one, instead of having the line at the top with the date and time, it has to say the date of the pending sweep. So if it doesn't have on there, January 29th, 2019 or whatever, that would be a problem. Has to clearly say that, and plus all the other information about what law is and how to get your stuff and all that. So let's jump into some of the quote unquote loopholes. So the city likes to find ways around this, and there's a few things that you should know well documented about the law. One is this only applies to public property, it doesn't apply to private property. So a lot of times we've had issues where people's stuff is used without any notice or anything because it's on private property, and that includes private property that you don't really know is private property, or doesn't seem like private property. So this happens a lot. For example, just right across the street, there's like a little wall for like a power building, just right in that parking lot, and there's this blank, or this empty area, it's been empty for years on end. And folks, after numerous weeks of whack-a-mole, folks moved into that area at one point, which is very lovely. And they ended up getting swept from that area with zero notice, and a lot of people lost their property and so on, because they say, oh, it's private property, they got fenced out and all that. So private property is another issue. But it's important to note that it has to be under the initiative of the private property owner. So if it's the city just coming in and saying, we're going to take this on our initiative, so they should be able to show you something and say this is the private property owner that go.
I understand for private property, they don't need notice, but for private property, if they sweep, is there still a requirement that they store personal property?
There's not a requirement, no. Yeah. Oh, yeah, here's your notice. Yeah. Here's your notice for January 16th. This is the 7-day notice. I can pass it around so people can look at it if you want. Okay, another nuance to be aware of. So this is a really big one that we happened just recently. Oh, go ahead.
Just real quick, you said the owner has to do something. Is there a piece of paper, like is there a notice that they have to have with them, or is it like a warrant?
They just have to contact the police department and. Maybe Darren knows where paperwork that's associated with that I'm not aware of, but I believe they just have to contact the police department.
Or the police department has to contact the private landowner to initiate the conversation to get, and to say, yeah, go ahead and move my people. Move.
And they can also have standing trespass orders. So like just recently, as police enforcement continued to recent time, there was that same property created a standing trespass order, gave where they didn't have to call the police every time, and they could just do their shit. Okay, another important one. Who is aware of what happened in Civic Center Park or Lincoln Park last week? It was actually a week ago today. Okay, some people, but not everybody. Wow, okay. So something really horrible happened last week. There had, with the holdback on camping ban enforcement, there has been a tremendous amount of stability that's been able to be grounded, where folks, while still having various types of disruption under different ordinances and all this other shit that's always present, were able to congregate more, be more stable, not be woken up at night, and so on. And with that, a lot of folks who stay in the Civic Center area moved over to the public strip, and we're staying there for a couple of weeks until, instead of giving a proper notice, a 7-day notice, as would be required, the city tried to pull a quote-unquote health and safety card. And that's...
the rat card.
Yeah, they pulled the rat card. They pulled the rat card and claimed that everybody staying in this camp is, according to the quote from folks at the camp, dirty rat control. That's the way they were portraying it. So that type of action is done with this health and safety loophole, where they claim that they have the authority to come in and bypass all of these notification requirements to deal with an emergency. It should be noted, we don't want to get too far down this rabbit hole, but the city made zero efforts to actually address those health and safety concerns. So never did they come and bring trash trucks to help pick up trash. Never did they employ day workers to help clean the area. Never did they install more porta potties or hand washing stations. Actually, instead, they removed the porta potties from the park. There have been porta potties in Civic Center forever, and they removed them right at the same time as the lawsuit, or as the camping ban ruling came down. That's what we claim, and we are arguing, is a violation of the lawsuit settlement. We're working on stuff with our lawyers and the court to take action on that, because that's the type of thing that we can't just let slide. If they're going to come in here and violate these agreements that they said and try to claim rats and get away with not giving people due process, that's violating our rights. But that's another one of these loopholes that they'll try to refer to. And just on the note of documenting, while we're on that topic, that's another one of these reasons why it's important to document, so that you can show, no, it's not crazy rat haven, or, maybe there's some rats that are there, never been in the park forever, but there's not, there's not like the extreme disasters that they try to say there is, or, here's some camps that are totally clean, okay, and then, well, I don't want to get too wild in the weeds. What's my time like? Okay, well, just one more loophole thing to note. There's also this issue with them throwing out tents that they find needles in. And it's bullshit, it's not okay, but they're doing it and claiming the health and safety card. So if you see them throwing a tent in the trash instead of in the storage, very often that's what they're justifying it. Should they justify it that way? We don't think so. But that's another action that they're doing to try to, get away with shit. Okay. So there's something else about the law that's really important to remember, and that is that while we have these basic property rights, where they can't just come and take your shit at any time, we still have the law on the books called the camping ban, better named survival ban, that makes it illegal to use any form of protection from the elements other than your clothing. Any form of protection from the elements. As everybody should be aware, this law was just ruled unconstitutional by the local judge. They appealed it to a higher court. We'll be fighting in a higher court. But the law still stands, as crazy as that may seem, that the judge ruled unconstitutional, and it still stands. So what that means in terms of sweeps enforcement is that they always have that law to turn back on. So, well, when they were not supposed to be enforcing the camping ban, they had to try to justify everything under the encumbrance law. With the survival ban being enforced, they can at any time say, you have to get up and move. So when they come into a sweep, Well, people should be able to stay right there. If they're there with their property, they're not encumbering anything, they don't have trash everywhere, they should be able to stay right there. The process instead is to use the camping ban to kick everybody out, sweep everybody away. And so that law is always at their fingertips. Right now, they'll get that out. Welcome. So yeah, that was actually kind of the end of this section for me, because I don't want to ramble on too much about laws. We're going to shift into talking about dynamics on the street. But I know you guys got here, you guys want to say something, and I also want to leave room for questions about all this law stuff. Do we want to jump over to questions about the law stuff real quick? Is there any? Yeah. We can do a quick turnaround. So, any questions about all that blabbering about laws? Oh, yeah.
Isn't it possible to argue that the city is acting in bad faith when they play the rat card because the rats have been there and they've known about them for months?
Exactly, and that's exactly what we're doing. Exactly.
You gotta understand, right down the street, we were doing construction. Them rats was upheaved and moving around way before people went down there and started standing down there all that block. See, we got some fucked up representation in all of them. The headman, I mean, serious. We gotta do something to stop this, because I'm gonna tell you like this. If anybody is stupid enough to have your own judge tell you that it's unconstitutional, but you gonna take our taxpayer dollars and try to fight it on a court, which you know the majority of the court, they always agree with each other, 95% of the time, so that's less than 5% that you got a chance to win, and you still out here trying to play sweep up people, and you're not providing one thing that they need, which is housing. And we got 23,000 houses over. As a matter of fact, right here within this one square block, I guarantee you that you got at least 200 houses that are vacant very much. But guess what? I can be your neighbor if I'm across the street. I can be your neighbor if I'm down the block. I can be your neighbor if I'm in the back of you. I cannot be your neighbor living across from you in the same damn apartment. Something's wrong with that analysis, and we need to change this here. I'm sorry.
Just one quick comment on that, and then a couple other things. So hence why documenting is important. So like, for example, if you have footage of rats from a month ago or a year ago or whatever, that kind of documentation is really helpful in fighting it in the courts. Darren, and then you, and then you.
Are you going to be talking about what to focus on when doing
Yes.
this?
Yes. Well, yeah, finish that here. Okay, 1, 2, 3.
Okay, I was just interestingly enough, I was at a meeting actually, in the ballpark neighborhood, and there was actually a person there who's, I think they're on the alley of Market Street, but there's a lot of restaurants and trash, and the person was saying that they've been trying to get the city to respond to the rat problem, and while at the same time the person was saying, what about our rat problem, there was a little this dismay, wait a minute, you suddenly pull the rat card here, we've been asking for 6 to 12 months rat problem, do you have, there's no, I don't think there's an encampment there, and he even challenged him, he said, well, wait a minute, he's got a response, but we've been bringing this to attention for months and we haven't got a response, so there really seems to be a real inequity on the, where the choice was to respond to the rat problem.
So there's 3 other hands, and we do have to move into the next section.
Just quickly, like, are there times of day where you're happening, or did it tell you what time?
Yes.
So, like, the time starts?
Well, yes and no. Yes and no. There's general times of day. They don't tell you what time of day. And it is very not, so no, they don't exactly say this time, this place, no. We, from experience, with the 7-day posting specifically, to know the general time frame that it always happens basically within the morning. So cops can show up as early as they want. They'll sometimes show up at 6, sometimes. So between somewhere around 6 or 7, when cops might start showing up. And then Public Works never actually really gets there until 9. So somewhere between 9 and 11 is usually the window, but they don't give you an exact time. So there is a lot of unpredictability with that. But, Mary?
Another thing, the reason why that they wanted to close down Lincoln Park is the fact of the matter that Christ in the city, they feed like 200, 300 people. They've been trying to shut them down forever. They also got a permit to be there, but you see how the stories do not match up. First is rats and feeding the unhoused. So we can make up all these doggone stories, but at the same time, they are not the truth. And, you know, speaking truth to power is exactly what we're looking for in the lawsuit.
Okay, so let's turn it over to hear a little bit from Kenny and Lisa, and then we'll come back to talking about like where to focus cameras and some of the logistics of the camera stuff.
What do you want us to cover? Thank you guys so much for being here. To date, we've been trying to pull in people whenever we can, including ourselves and our team, taking turns to be at these sweeps to make sure that we're policing the police when they're violating constitutional rights. It doesn't seem like we're moving in the right direction. We had a bill today come up in safety committee that I delayed, but it was really trying to expand the scope of work for the hazmat cleanups, specifically for these homeless encampment cleanups. And so our goal is to repeal the camping ban, but we're in momentum building mode. And so this is a great indicator of the kind of interest we have in protecting constitutional rights. And so we need you guys to, beyond the legal observer piece of this, we need you all to carry the concern and the compassion into your circles and your communities so that we can really force my colleagues to repeal this ban rather than investing dollars we don't have on these cleanups. The contract was for $6 million. That would boost the housing budget by 22%. That's how few resources we're devoting to housing solutions. So we need help with that. We need you guys to consistently bombard your city council members. Hopefully not just me because I get it. So make sure that we're getting the rest of them. We had Ortega and Canich who were originally not supportive of the camping ban back when it was first implemented. So we need to verify and make sure that they're still on board to repeal. We're having a town hall down the street in about an hour, right here at the corner at Carbon Cafe. And we have had RSVPs that say death to the homeless. We can't wait to sit and chat with other people who feel the same way. And so your bodies mean everything, not only in the legal observer space, but in these town hall spaces where we really have to create a balance to the narrative. Because the people who show up are the people who are ready to enforce, ready to devote all the little resources we have to sweeping our neighbors. And so your physical presence there balances out that narrative and shows them that they're not the dominant voice. There's a lot of confidence in the opposition because of 300 and how that went down, even though it was a small slice of the population. We know our full population isn't voting. And so we need to find other ways to make sure that we're keeping the scales balanced. I don't know if you guys had any specific questions that came up before we got here, or if you want to add anything.
Well, I wanted to just add thank you. This has been kind of our go-to team. Jesse has been like alerting us saying, there's another sweep, Lisa. And I'm like, I'm getting ready for work, but I'll meet you there. And so we knew we needed reinforcement. And then working with Therese and Darren to organize this, because we said, we need more eyes on the ground. And then Ben has been wonderful about responding to Facebook comments because we wanted to come directly from experts. And there's a lot more folks in here, whether you come to city council, but this is essentially the beginning of growing a movement to
to really try to get people to understand the humanity. Like, if you disagreed with 300, but you have to understand that the camping ban hasn't worked either, what are the but we also know that we're out there to maintain the dignity of people who are being moved and swept along. And we're not going to sanitize the language that the city continues to say that they're not criminalizing. We know that they're criminalizing. Some of you may have seen our recent posts about a shelter tour that we took, and some of you are already familiar with it. But the fact that we were able to show rows and stacks of beds and have people being outraged about that. I mean, imagine if they actually saw the people in them, right? But we're outraged because I think part of it is that they feel that they were lied to, right? Because the opposition said that Denver would do better. And what they find out is there is no better, right? These shelters that are warehousing people, our dysfunctional shelter system has got to change. And we have to stop investing on just moving people along, warehousing them and disappearing them. So we really want to thank you. Again, when you're done with your training, if you, those of you who can shift over just down the street at the end of the block to the Carbon Cafe, because we want to be solution focused. But we also want to recenter the margins so the voices that traditionally have not been heard around this issue are supported and are heard. So thank you so much for being here. This really warms our hearts to see you all.
And two other pieces of reshaping the narrative, or bringing truth to the narrative. With the rat situation, there's no denying that there is a rodent problem across the city. Bunnies are rodents, squirrels are rodents. We have more because of our shift from dumpsters to the public trash receptacles. That is not an urban solution. We have people who are tourists, people who are homeless, people like us running down the street with lunch or a bottle of water who have nowhere to throw our trash. The move away from public trash is really at the root of our rodent problem. And so to falsely blame it on the encampments is not fair. We've been demanding solutions related to public trash since they shifted away from dumpsters. It is illegal for you to see a trash can and go to someone's trash can and put your trash in there. And so this is a cultural issue, and we need to have a bigger conversation about that. Also with, it's the rodents, and the prioritization of the cleanups. So we have been demanding DPHE, Public Works, Parks and Rec, give us a criteria or some kind of indicator sheet that tells us how they decide when a cleanup, an emergency cleanup is warranted. We have not received that. And so we need help building demand for that kind of guidance, because they are arbitrary at this point. There is no reason to prioritize a cleanup at Lincoln Park or Civic Center Park versus any other corner, pocket park, or neighborhood park. The difference is that you have tourists, that is the face of Denver, and so we prioritize the areas where we have people who are coming in and seeing Denver for the first time, or who are going to businesses, and that is unacceptable. So we need help making sure we shift the conversation on all fronts.
Yeah. Do you all have any questions before we head out down the street?
Quick one is, how can the legal observers or anyone who collects information about these sweeps that they're going up, how can they make it most useful to you all, or is it more beneficial just to be getting it to general almost out loud? How do you wish to see it?
So, at least I've been using it three-prong, and one is to document, right, because we need to document, as y'all have been talking about, but to verify what's going on the street, and then I send that over to the city attorney's office to say if there are things that we need to look into or follow up on, and then I use it to inform Candy so that she knows what's actually going on. Also in real time, or that she's prepared when she's speaking before city council. So that's how we've been using the information. I'm sure that D-Hole can also use the information, considering the appeal has been put in by the city of Denver, and And so what's useful for them? But for us, it can help us to say, hey, how come this and not this? As Candy was saying, why is it the 7-day? Why do we get notice in this instance, but not in this instance? And there was a lot of confusion, right, between the 48-hour, the 7-day, immediate cleanup and all that. We're trying to really wrap our heads around, and we do that with data. And so you all are helping us to clarify in what instances are things happening. We've also found contradictions, right, from what they said they've been doing, but what we're hearing around. And we're able then to go back to the city attorney's office and inform city council about, no, we're having divergent information here.
I don't know if this was a part of your training, but one of the things that I think would be helpful and is really tough with the unhoused population, when you see rights being violated, find a way to get that person's contact information. Because part of the power of what we're doing is it's rooted in litigation. Unfortunately, that's an avenue that has led us to the point that we're in. And there was a $6 million lawsuit filed by the Veterans Rescue Mission immediately after the courts ruled the ban unconstitutional. What I need help doing is proving to the city that the lawsuits that will continue coming because of these constitutional violations are a liability to the city. And we need to get laws off our books that create liabilities for settlements that could be bigger than our entire investment in housing. And so when you find somebody whose rights are being violated, get their information. We need to collect that because next step, class action lawsuit with dollar amounts attached to them. Those are the ways that we could compel the city to stop this appeal, because right now what we've been told is that there are people who have volunteered to do the appeal pro bono. And so they say they're not using city resources for it. But the settlements present an option or a reason to take that liability into consideration. So that is helpful. Collect information. We need to organize our unhoused population, and when they know their rights are being violated, and someone else in another camp and then in another camp, and we bring them together, that's power.
Real quick, sorry, can I get you guys' name again and what you guys who are?
My name is Candy Sedavaca. I'm the city council representative for District 9, which is everything from Colfax to the river, and from Colfax to the river, and then I-70 to, it's all twisty. It's I-70 to Colfax, Colorado to the river.
I'm Lisa Calderon. I'm Candy's chief of staff. So I'm here to make sure, one, to protect Candy. Two, to make sure that her platform priorities get implemented. So,
But you guys are represent us homeless people, right? You're on our side.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
See, that's the There was just one thing too that I wanted to add in terms of scheduling that I know, thank you again, Darren, for reaching out to local observers, is that even though the sweeps technically start at 9 o'clock, the presence starts at about 8 o'clock, right? And so that's part of my concern in terms of where the potentiality for tensions can escalate, especially when people are feeling like I saw nothing, right? I saw no notice. So there's confusion, and I feel like that can be a tense time too. So I think for scheduling, and I know that, sometimes it may work out for people to do it, before work around 8 a.m., for other people to stay till the very end, is on average about 10 a.m.
Or go till 2 or 3 some days.
Even longer sometimes.
And earlier, like 8 a.m. is like on a good police day, especially if when they're ramping back up on camping bed enforcement, which is now starting back again. Earlier than 7 is even better.
Yeah, that's part of their strategies. They want to be very visible when they do that. So having the police force out while rush hour is going on, people are seeing that the police are doing something. So that's kind of a strategy thing.
Is there any system in place on the 7-day and 48-hour notices, leaving aside the emergency card? Is there any systematic way that we could know when those are happening and observers could go to some particular place.
The minute we get notice, we notify Therese and vice versa. And so our office, or Therese, I took a picture of your contact information to add you guys to our list. That way we can let you know, but I think that Neil is explicitly trying to be that conduit. And so we'll let you guys know whenever we get notice.
Because sometimes they know and we don't know, and vice versa. And I think that one of the things that the wins of the settlement got was this notice, but it was important so that, because before we had no idea, right? And so it always sprang up. So now we're going to use the fact that there is notice to get the word out so people have time, to the extent we can on the 48-hour and the 7-day week, to get there, right? And so people have advance notice. Now, we're still left with the issue of the sudden sweeps, and that's what we get early morning, late at night, in between, in the middle of the day. It's still difficult. But at least in this way, we can still collect adequate data, and we can have our eyes on the ground for at least those two types of sweeps.
Is there already an agreement between the city agencies and city council persons that you will formally get notice for each and every one of these ones with advance? And if not, can we work through city council to make that something that they have to do? That way it goes to all the city council members.
We've been demanding that since day one. It's worked on a couple, it hasn't on others, and so right now, it's just not consistent. And I think it's different departments that are deciding when the sweeps are warranted, and so we have an issue with giving us the information. We've gotten information from DPD, we've gotten information from Public Works, we've gotten information from DDPHE. They're not always all talking to each other at the same time, and so we're still working on that. We're still trying. Councilman Hines is an ally. He's asking for notice in his district. It seems that our districts, 9 and 10, are the two most affected, and so we're the two that are bothering them the most.
Is there anything in place that instead of criminalizing everyone, humanizes them as far as resources go? The aspect that is out there, there's not a lot of information about. Different public libraries, more explored, and to get on the list, but I mean, I don't know that everyone doesn't know that even if you call a library asking resource desk, they're giving you a regular resource desk instead of them sort of situations
Where you are having a more humanizing experience as an unhoused person, they're full. They're the ones with the wait list, they're the ones you can't get into. The ones that are like warehouses, that's where you have empty beds. And people are all coming back to the same exact places for resources in the day because they're not doing the real case management in the shelters.
Absolutely. I came out here from Minneapolis actually to try to come solve that, and then I had a brain injury ended up on the other side. So if anybody, if it's worth it to anybody, go to the 4th floor of the Denver Public Library down here, back right corner, holler at Lisa or Matt, tell me how to fill out your DI SPDAC chronic homeless form. And I'm housed, but it's just, it sucks to see all the old.
We're trying to change some zoning things right now because it's illegal for more than 2 unrelated adults to live together. And so for people who are trying to room up, you can easily be targeted in a neighborhood and you can get code violations that kick you out. We're trying to work on that to change that for group living. We're also trying to address something that's related to group living, but is the spacing requirements for shelters, group homes, halfway houses, supported housing. There are space limitations that don't let them put them where you might actually have space to be able to put them because they don't want a concentration of them. And so we're working on those two things. It's all coming to my mind.
Yeah. I was gonna just add an aside, the budget. So, Candy asked for a lot of things in the budget, obviously, that we didn't get. But again, this documenting that you all are doing will help us also to build a case for budget priority. So when she asked for trash receptacles, public restrooms, those were all denied, right? But if we're able to, and if there are additional needs, that you find, should be in there, even if it's not related specifically to the suite, but in just in your conversation with somebody, go ahead and write that down, because we're gonna go through all of that information. We probably got time for one more, and then we gotta get you over next door. Any other ones?
Direct response to what the sister had asked. So I applied for the BS and that. Just to talk to a case manager, you have to apply, you have to go through a lottery system. Just to get a bed for the night, you have to apply for a lottery system. So they're basically gambling with our lives.
I get it, I'm telling you how to stick that right
So,
now. Where you supposed to be entering
so
this?
when I finally got to meet with my case manager, I had a case manager from like 6 years ago, Mary Adams. She's the one that signed me up for the BS for that, and it took about an hour for her to do it, and I scored about half, set that on a scale of 0 to 18, and so I qualified for rapid rehousing, but what she was telling me was there's no funding. The funding hasn't come in yet for the rapid rehousing voucher. So depending on how you score on the BS for that,
So now they're taking.
that's where they basically classify you and put you and say you're eligible for this or you're eligible for that.
Okay, I heard that.
Women tend to be higher on that because of the sheltering situation. There are less options, and so it is important to go get that filled out, get on their list, save the documentation when they're telling you that your score's too low, what we need to make a case. A lot of the information we take back and stand on is anecdotal, and we don't have the proof that we need. So when you guys have documentation or responses from people telling you these things, let us know so we can track it down and build a real case for it.
What is the legal envelope of the case?
So the legal observers are trying to figure out when someone's rights are being violated, and they're trying to make sure when they're observing the suites that people aren't being harmed and that services are being offered. Because that's part of what the camping ban is supposed to do. They're supposed to make sure that they're offering services when they're making the suites. And so we need help making sure that if they offer a service and you go to track it down, it's actually available, and they don't just tell you, oh, sorry, we're full, or it's not available, or you gotta participate in the lottery.
And not only that it's available, but that it's relevant to that person. So there was one more again. We gotta wrap it up. We're right on time.
Well, I'm getting oppressed, so I need to know who has to talk.
You're in the spot. Talk to us.
Okay, thank you.
When you're asking for more trash service and more public restrooms, can you also get the health department to post some sharps containers so people can dispose of needles? Even if it's just a matter of sticking them on a pole instead of sticking a notice on there. If they can find a pole, they can put up a sharps container.
So we have the harm reduction action center. If you see sharps, call that place. Call them, they come pick them up. There's a state grant program that is supposed to make the sharps containers available. We have to figure out how to use them, how to access the dollars to be able to do that. I think people are hesitant to just put them up on a phone post, because what if someone goes in there and reuses one? And so we need to figure out some ways to do that in trusted places. We know it's going to get cleaned every day. So if you see a place with a heavy concentration, indicate that, let us know so we could get AC out there.
And they'll be at our meeting tonight, so they can also answer specific questions. I think part of it is also just people not wanting to see them, as if we don't see something, it's not happening, but we know it is.
Yeah. And it's not always heroin. There are diabetics who are unhoused who need them as well. So,
all right. Thank you, everybody.
Does everyone here know which council member pushed through the camping ban? Brooks.
Does everyone here know who ran him out of office?
Candace Sinabaka. And for the record, what time does that meeting start?
5:30. Meeting at 5:30.
We only have about 20 minutes left. So can we zoom in focus? We have some really important things to cover about Sweet Squatch. We haven't covered the meat of it yet. I'm going to throw some things super fast, and then Ben's going to talk about stuff, and then we're going to close. Super fast. Really important. When you're out documenting sweeps, people are living in these encampments. People are living on the streets. These are where folks live. So if you're a house folk going into a place where folks are living outside, a lot of there's not trust. So you need to actually build relationships with people in that camp as much as possible. As much as possible. What's different here than maybe some of the other NLD stuff is that it really matters if you're talking to folks, getting to basically say, say, hi, I'm Therese, I'm with Democrats Out, or I'm with Rights Watch, I'm here to protect your rights, I'm here to document police, to stop them from using your right to take your property. Something simple like that, so everybody knows why you're there. Also, a lot of people have very legitimate reasons for not wanting to be on camera. So do not point a camera at someone, if much as possible, without their permission. Try to, if possible, ask first. Now that's hard, because a lot of times, most of the time, they're putting this tape up, and it's really hard to actually get in close. So if you can't actually go right to somebody and ask, keep it as much as possible away from somebody, and then go to the side and ask, or let's find somebody else you can talk to, and let them know why you're there. Try to communicate with folks as much as possible. A lot of people will get very upset by being filmed when they don't want to be, and we try to respect that. Us in Denver Home Style, I would say, okay, we're going to try to respect that, because we're not here to make things harder for folks on the street. We're here to stand together and fight for our rights. Couple really quick things, and then I'll just pass it over to Ben. When we're documenting, we're trying to document the specifics of the property rights when it's a sweep. So document the notice. Take a picture of the notice. Document property that's being thrown into the trash. Document property that's being put in storage. Document interviews with residents if they're willing. If somebody's willing to explain on camera, or just even pointing the camera away from them, to explain the situation, what's happening when they are taken, that's critical. Get that kind of stuff documented. So we're really looking here to document the real lives of what's going on, and to document the violations of the lawsuit. So those are some things to put your camera at. Pointing cameras at cost is good, but a lot of times in these sweeps, it's actually the public works and the custom environmental hazmat services who are the ones who are actually doing the taking of the property. So you might be having to focus your camera more on them. And I will leave it at that. And then I'm going to pass it to Ben to show a little footage. And then we got to try to wrap up with follow-up and how to follow up and make sure that we're getting everybody's contact information. And it's really good. We're super excited about it.
So what I was saying about the VIs for that, you can skip it. Like the lottery, they have their own system now. And it will follow up with the homies. You can skip that. Go to the 4th floor of the library, back right corner. Go talk to Plika or Matt, and they will put you on that. It sounds like you might have a different questionnaire. There might be a different way the route that you went. So I'm not sure, But yeah, so that's a quick way to get there. But then you want to have a caseworker on the other end. They like to look good, whatever. As soon as your number's up, and have to call the caseworker, and you get to look for stuff like that. That else gives you a lot.
With that being said, one thing that is really crucial, we need to get this on the street about this voucher, because I met a guy last week, okay, when the sweep was taking place. He was across the street from us for 2.5 years. He was from Orange County, California, did not know where to go for housing. So he sat there until somebody basically told him where to go, his house. This is a big thing. Information is not, yeah, exactly. It's not information unless it's communicated to everybody. So all of you who are out there filming, if we can, if you could tell the people about the voucher and to go to the Coalition for the Homeless or to go to the library on the 4th floor, you know, that is essential because the more people that are doing this, the more people are going to house faster. As it is, it takes 2.5 years. Now with this is rapid housing. So everybody qualifies. In 1 year, just remember that, people, 1 year of being on the street means you're chronically homeless. That equals 20 years off of your life as an unhoused person.
Just clarify, I have a question. So for this rapid housing, is it only for people who've been homeless 12 months or more?
So-
The reason I asked was because I sent somebody there, she was instructed, she's homeless, she's 86 years old. She's living in her car. She's been dealing with Coalition for the Homeless in the Denver housing, whatever the new name is it for. They're running her around. They sent her there and she admitted it hadn't been a full 12 months. They sent her away. She's still in her car. This is absurd.
So have her redo it. Okay, so
But I was trying to get like rapid housing.
so yeah, I applied directly.
Can we have people catch up on this topic
Sorry.
afterwards?
Yeah.
No, it's totally cool, we're just about out of time.
Thank you, Darren.
All right, so this part is, all right, you're there, you're documenting, what do you do with your camera or your cell phone in order to get something? Has anybody seen a Bigfoot video? All right, what do you see? And the sound's no good, and it's typically worthless in documenting. So what I'm gonna go through here really quickly is a couple things to keep in mind when you're pointing the camera. You've got a lot of advice on what kinds of things to capture and how close you can get to that. So we'll start there. So with this one, they're having an interview with this gentleman. So you could hear him earlier.
Your volume's too low on your computer screen.
On the screen. And then all of a sudden all you hear is wind. So, one of the ways, so being aware that there's wind and stuff, knowing how to protect your microphone from wind is important. Because everything that this guy says after the time that the wind picked up is gone. So, covering your microphone with your finger very lightly is one of the ways to do that. Sound is a big deal when it comes to listening information. And then on this one here, this is some streets that happened a few years ago. I'm just going to kind of drag through this in order to hurry through. So some things you want to do is you want to get a scale of what's going on here. A lot of times people get so close with the camera, they miss the sense of scale. So here we see that this is, there's leaks going on down this block, it's out on the other block, and around the corner over here. And then the other thing that is good to do is narrating as you're going along to describe to people what's seeing. So here's an example of that. This is not a good one for that. So along here, there's narration going on there. So narrate while you're going on to describe the thing. That just means talk while you're taking the video. I'm standing here. This is the time of day that I am videoing. This is the day that I am videoing, and this is what I am seeing. So talk over the top of that. So, and I'm going to leave it there because those are a couple of the really big things.
And try not to be emotional, factual, facts.
All right, so we have like 10 minutes left. We need to talk about follow-up, and then let's close with questions that are relevant to this specific focus on the filming of our street walk. Follow-up. So over on that over on that table over there, there's a bunch of papers, but one of them looks like that Ian's holding up. They're called sweeps the settlement. So if you can, fill one of those out and send it into the office. You can type it up on your own, you don't have to use that form, or you can use a form. We have them here in the office if you want to come in the office and grab one. But filling out those details and getting them into us, or getting them straight to a lawyer if you want, that's great too. But if you bring them to us, we can get the ones to the lawyers if they are actually a settlement violation.
What is the violation?
Yeah, so you guys came in a little late. In the beginning-
I was like, I know.
Yeah, in the beginning of the presentation, we were talking about the class action lawsuit settlement. So we can talk more offline afterward about it. But in summary, it's a class action we have in the city for taking our property without due process. It means that the city has to give notice prior to taking any property, and they have to take it to a storage facility. So, that's what they are supposed to do. They violate that, we have to document those violations and take that to the lawyers to be able to fight it. And then other things with follow-up is, footage. You want to talk about footage?
Yeah, the other thing is that if it's on your cell phone and it stays there for a year, it's useless. So if you take video and you capture video,
The 60-day one?
you got to get it to somebody that can do it. So we can receive it here, so if you need help transferring the video off your cell phone onto another type of media, you can upload it to YouTube and get a link, and then that link can be shared in order to make that video. So it's really important that whatever you capture on your device, you find a way to get it to places where people can make it effective.
Can I make a suggestion?
So
No.
there's Ann and then
Go ahead.
You need to put the date and time on the video. So before you start filming, set up your.
Some of us are internet illiterate, so I'll just do what I can and then I'll give it to you and translate it.
Just come on in the office and we'll transfer it all up and we'll get it.
I have a suggestion on that. So while if everybody is all at one spot at one time and everyone try to get different aspects of what's going on,
Yeah, definitely spreading out, absolutely, spread out to different areas. Right.
So a couple key points that I want to make is that you got to make sure you have memory on your phone and battery power before you go out. In addition to having problems with the wind, you can have problems with trying to live stream where you'll have breaks in the live stream, and oftentimes it's better if you have such storage capacities to do static recording so that the feed doesn't get broken up.
So a couple of things. For legal observers, this is very different. We're actually trying to get this into the public eye instead of making it a work product that no one gets to see until we go to court. So it's making it visible and getting it out there. So that form that they handed out has the contact information, and I'll put it up on our Facebook page for the National Lawyers Guild. The other is, maybe you're going to talk about this. How do these folks get alerted to any tweet?
Thank you. So, insofar as we know, which is not always the case, insofar as we know, if you sign your email on the sheet over there with the sign-in, we have a growing email list of people that are down to be sweeps watchers, that have gone through this kind of training, that are down to actually go out and respect folks' rights, including people that don't want to be filmed. And so you can get those email notifications. If we know ahead of time that there's a sweep, I'll send an email to that list, and you can say, hey, I can be there, or oh no, I can't make it. You don't have to say, oh, I can't make it, never mind. Just say you can be there. And then we can coordinate. So if we know, oh, there's 5 people that can come, maybe some of these people will come earlier and some later, or other types of logistics like that. However, we don't always know when these happen. Sometimes because they're violating the due process of notification, and sometimes because it's the 48-hour one. With the 48-hour notices, we don't get barely any, it's very hard to know when that's going to actually happen, and there's very problematic follow-through. So just because you get a 48-hour notice does not mean that they're going to come 2 days later. So there's really no telling whether that's going to mean 2 days or 10 days or never. So those are really problematic in that way. Point being, there's a lot of different, and sweeps like the one at Civic Center or the one that happened over by Colfax recently, that happen without due process and no notice. So for those kind of things, if you are walking out on the streets, you're out and about, and you see that happening, that's a great time to just step in and start documenting. Again, recognizing, that folks at that camp may not know you, you might want to introduce yourself, let them know why you're there, that kind of thing, but documenting just what you come upon can also be really important.
If you got questions or want to re-review, we recorded one of these training sessions on our YouTube channel. So if you just Google up Streets Life Training on Get Loud Magazine, so it's a way to follow up and refresh yourself. So.
Okay, it's already 5:27.
Where's this other event at?
So,
Right down the street.
That's not an advert.
It's on the corner, kitty corner from Mercury.
California Street.
Thank you, brother.
move along, just down the corner.
Thank you so much.
I got you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us for Denver Homeless Out Loud Street Watch Training. We'll be going live real quick, real short, about 5 minutes from now with Candy Sabaka. Feel free to come back and join us, or feel free to go to the Jefferson County Jail and protest Alan Moody's arrest.